Tampa Bay, and everywhere else. How are you? Welcome to VCF, the Virtual Community Forum in Tampa Bay. I am Dr. Morency, your host. I want to thank you all for joining us again on Facebook. And if for the past 2 weeks you haven't noticed us at all, you're probably correct, because we took a break to reorganize, and basically we've decided that we're going to bring quality shows to you guys. Sometime it may be once a week, sometime it may be twice a month. So that's the commitment we make for you. And we are very happy that you join us again today. And we're also happy to be back here. And don't forget, the show is sponsored by JRR Studios. Today, we're going to have a great conversation about building wealth, and especially relevant in this time of COVID-19, where there is a lot of uncertainty, there is a lot of disruption in our society, and the future is really kind of cloudy. Nobody can tell us exactly where we go. So if we have the ability to be responsible for our own finances, our own wealth, then the better off we're going to be. Obviously, making money has always been important in our life, okay? But it's something like, if you look at the past, it seems like only a small minority of people are successful at building wealth. And sometimes that wealth goes from families and generation to generation. We would like to change all that by giving you the appropriate information. So in order to tackle this issue, I have with me on the panel two excellent guests who've been in the business and have very impeccable credentials. And it's my pleasure to really welcome them to the show. First is Andy Numa. Andy is our friend here in Tampa Bay. And Andy is very well known to the show. He's a frequent guest and also a supporter as well as contributor to the show. So, Andy, very happy to have you here. Please tell us a little something about yourself.
Well, thank you, Yves. Thanks for having me again at the show. It was pretty fun the last time, I was there. And I think I'm glad that we're able to talk about, this important topic of building wealth. So I'll start by giving a little bit of my background and how I came to be a small business owner. So, of course, I was born in Haiti. I spent my early life there. After high school, I moved to the U.S., came to college here. I got a couple of degrees in engineering. And right off the bat, I was hired by a big corporation. I spent about 10 years working in corporate America. And I say 10 years because, it was always my dream to have my own business, basically to have an engineering firm, a consulting firm. So after 10 years, and some people call it the 10-year itch, I think a lot of time people in corporate America think, okay, maybe I could do something different than just the daily grind. So I decided to take the plunge with my wife and my brother-in-law, and we founded a company called Automated System Consulting, which specializes in the installation of audiovisual equipment and technology for primarily K-12 schools and also for corporations. So fast forward about 20 years, we've been in business for a while. We've been operating in 2 states, Florida and Alabama. We have about 20. We're still a small business, but we do work with a lot of larger organizations. Some of the biggest school districts in the country are in Florida, and they are our customers. So, it's been a long road, but we're happy to be here and to still be operating.
Well, thank you for showing up and helping us out. Our other guest, it's a pleasure to meet him, is Lieutenant Colonel Yves Medor. He has a very vast experience covering an excellent career in the military, and as well as his business, computer, accounting, works for various aspects. But hey, who am I to tell you about him? He's here. Welcome, Colonel, can you tell us about you, please?
Dr. Morency, good evening, and good evening, Andy, and thank you for having me. Today is my first day on the show. And actually, my journey to the U.S. started today, 17 July 1970. So today marks the 50th year that I've been in America. And I will never forget that day. So when I first came in, I was 14 years old. So I attended high school. And right after high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know whether I was going or coming. So I decided to give something back to America. So I joined the Army. And while I was in the Army, that's when I really found myself. And I decided that at an early age, I wanted to retire and I wanted to be financially independent. So I went to college, received my degree, and right after I graduated from college, I joined the Marine Corps, okay, and I received my commission as a second lieutenant in August 1982. From that point forward, I was stationed throughout the world, mostly in Japan, Europe, the Pentagon, and various places in the States. And while I'm in the military, I decided that the only way I'm going to be financially independent is by not only working and receiving a paycheck every 2 weeks, so I had to invest. So way back in the early 1980s, I became an investor, a serious investor. So I started to read books and books after books. So I basically started to invest in stocks, mutual funds. And I didn't know much at the time, but I figured as I was learning, I might as well start. So as a result, I spent 25 years total in the military. And I retired about 20 years ago. And now I run my own tax preparation practice in Port St. Lucie. And there are various other things that I do to keep busy. So, and I get to do what I want to do. So my goal that I set almost 35 years ago, almost 40 years ago, I think I'm there, but mostly through investments.
Well, thank you for having you both, gentlemen. Let's go right through it. Everybody heard this report about that nearly 50% of the world wealth is owned by 1% of the people. So how can, multiple question here, how can the average folks really able to break into that elite group? And what does it take really? I mean, you guys have been in business. I mean, for me, I came straight forward to medicine, but you guys been in business, you know about this. What is it gonna take? Is there a particular mindset for people to go out there and start making money or investing into building wealth? Andy, since you're in the private sector, you're an entrepreneur, maybe you can start with this and use your experience, please.
You said it right there. You said mindset. The other thing I thought about when you said, what does it take? It takes time. You know, this is not something that happens, you know, right away. You know, wealth is, you know, the word building. This is really a very long-term, you know, prospect. And a lot of time I think that people, you know, think that, okay, if I'm going to do this venture or if I want to invest in the stock market, I want to just, you know, bet it all in black. And then, you know, it's going to go, you know, it's going to rocket to the top and then that's it. But unfortunately, it's not as glamorous as, you know, they show it in the movies. You really need to, you know, the average, you know, person living in this country really needs to have a plan, you know, that starts, you know, as early as possible, or even if it's late, but they need to think long term. And also, you know, they need to have a plan, but also this is something that they need to buy in, not just for themselves, but also for their families and their children. So it's not enough, for example, for me to say, okay, well, I run a business and, you know, I've got it all figured out. But you know what, if my children do not think about, okay, how they're going to succeed, if I don't pass on that knowledge, you know, to my kids or to the people around me, the people that I care about, people in my community, people like you, if we don't share that information, you know, then we're just at one point of life that you can call a success, but, you know, the knowledge will get lost if you don't pass it on. So it's really, I will leave it there, but I'm sure Guy, you wanna jump in on that. But I think it's time, patience, perseverance, and planning.
Okay. So Guy, what about on the investor side? I mean, when did you start?
From an investment perspective, a number of years ago, I realized that most Americans will retire in poverty, and that is sad. Mm-hmm. And why is that? Okay, because no one really intends to fail. Okay, we just fail to plan, and we make the same mistakes over and over again. Okay, what are some of those mistakes? Okay, negative mindset, as Andy mentioned. Okay, lack of planning. Okay, lack of knowledge. We procrastinate. Some people say, "Well, I'm too young. I have time." Okay, so how do you avoid those pitfalls? You just have to start. Mm-hmm. And the way I started, with my minimal knowledge, I started by reading books. At the time, the internet was not so prominent, so I went to the library a lot. I read a lot of newspapers. I read a lot of money magazines and publications, and I just started. And I figured as I'm starting, I'm learning, I'm educating myself. And I'm not claiming to be an expert on anything, but I knew enough to make the right decisions and invest, and start a mutual fund. And I also realized that if I'm going to work to retire, to achieve my financial goals and be financially independent, working was not going to do it for me. So once I made that decision that I was going to be an investor, I went all the way in. Okay. And along the way, I made mistakes. What is a mistake? I bought a stock that didn't turn out so well. Then I sold it. Then I got another one, and so on and so forth. And as I got more knowledge, I was able to minimize, almost eliminate my mistakes. And that's where I've taken it since.
Well, it's interesting because certainly I started on a different path than you two guys, because I knew from the beginning, from the onset, I wanted to be in medicine. And in the back of my mind, if I'm going to be in medicine, well, there will be money. I mean, it's almost like, okay, we're going to medicine, you're going to make some money. But it's only in the middle of the game, as I'm going through the stuff over the years, I find that I'm working harder and harder and making less. And I woke up, I said, my God, if I don't do something, I'm going to work for the rest of my life and probably not even make enough money for my family. That's when I decided, well, I better do something. Not only trying to save money, as I told you earlier in our conversation, that I was fortunate enough to read some book as well, because there's nothing that I could remember about my education that actually taught me about finances and business. So I started reading some book like you did, and with the suggestion of some friend, and I hire a financial planner to help us. And it turned out that, well, that was one of the good decisions we made, because I was able to find somebody who actually has helped me along the way. But what you guys mentioned, we better concentrate on this, because if you don't have, this is what Andy mentioned, mindset. If you don't have a vision to where you're going to go, okay, and then you buy into the old system where you're going to go to school and work hard and then waiting for Social Security and retirement, and you said that very well, Guy. Most people are going to end up in poverty by the time they're supposed to be retired. Okay, so the education has a lot to do with it. Now, you really went for book, but what kind of education do really people need? What did you guys? Do you have a mentor? Do you have somebody you look up to? Or this is all the desire for you? You decided from early on you were going to be an entrepreneur or investor.
If I may, okay. At the time when I started, I didn't have a mentor. The only thing is, as Andy mentioned, and you also mentioned, Dr. Morency, you have to have a vision. And my vision was to be financially independent. And what does financial independence mean? Okay, to me, it meant, doing what I want, when I want, however I want. Okay. So I said, well, I had no one to help me get started. So I figured by going to the library and started reading, and it was different back then. But nowadays, if we had the internet, if it was that prominent back when I started, I don't know where I would be today, but I can assure you I would be a whole lot further. Okay, so now, and I keep talking about education because this is the way I started. But now you don't really need all that education. Okay, you just need to get started because there are so many different websites out there, so many different brokerage companies that will help you open up a brokerage account for free. Okay, and the beauty is, and as soon as you open the account, you speak to one of the customer service agents, and you tell them, "Hey, I don't know anything about this thing. Okay, I need to get started." And you can present your vision to them, and they will help you get started. Okay.
Okay.
So that's the reason why you don't need to do all this reading that I used to do. I'm not saying education is not important now. It is, because you need to know what you're doing. So when you hear those terms, you understand what they're talking about. Okay. But it's not as difficult to get started now.
It's like when they say the truth is out there, the information is out there right now. Like you were saying, whenever you say that, I just smile when you talk about how you started. You had to go and painstakingly, grab a book and read this stuff and find out how to invest. So we're talking probably, let's say, the late 90s, while you were, I guess, stationed maybe in Japan or something, or in Germany. On my end, I was following the well-beaten path, basically. You get out there, you go to college, get a degree, you get a job, you're working for a good company. This is your sole source of income. You're thinking, okay, you've got the 401k plan, you've got all that good stuff. You're good to go. You don't need, when you're consuming out there, when you're going out and you're buying something, you're thinking, I'm consuming, you're buying the good, but you're not really thinking beyond that. You see, and here's a joke that Guy and I always tell him is like, in the late 90s, he's looking to invest. I'm working in IT and technology, and I know about this little company called Amazon that just started. And actually, I became an Amazon customer like back in 1998. Who had heard about Amazon back then? I ordered 5 books. That was my first, because I love it. I said, this is a great idea. A company that just sells books, I can just order it. I don't need to go to the library. Great. IBM stock back then was like $45. Did I even think about investment? I'm sorry, not IBM, Amazon. Did I think about investment? I didn't really think about it. I just thought this was a great idea. First, same thing with Netflix. So you have those companies out there. I became a Netflix customer when they were selling, started with CDs, not even DVDs. So it's really, now looking back, it's like, if you don't have the mindset to think, okay, instead of just purchasing the product and using it, can I even take that money and instead of that buy a few shares of that company? You couldn't do that back then, but now you can do that. It's very easy to get into that mode, and the information, whether it's you can find, some of it online, some good information online, but also get with someone that knows this stuff, financial advisor, or someone in your family that's already, an investment into that, so that you can get started. It's not that hard.
Yeah. And not only that, let me also point out, nowadays, if somebody says that they don't know, okay, I see that as an excuse, because I have a cousin. My cousin's name is Google. Okay. So whatever I need to know, whatever it is I need to know, I ask my cousin. Then I have another female cousin. Her name is Bing. Okay, I asked Bing. Bing will tell me. For instance, I said, how do I start investing? That's a question. I just asked a question. How do I open up a brokerage account? Need. Back then, we didn't have it when I started, so I had to start from scratch. But nowadays, the information is out there. You just have to go get it. In fact, you don't have to go anywhere. It's on your cell phone. Right in your hand.
Very good information. So we're going to talk about a couple of other factors that actually can contribute to somebody's success when they start a business or when they start investing or building stuff. Things like credit score, customer service, and there was a whole list of rules. So I'm going to take a short break, and then we can come right back. We're back. Today we're talking about building wealth. And I'm Dr. Morency. With me, I have Andy Numa, entrepreneur, and Lieutenant Colonel, investor par excellence, Yves Medor. So we've been talking about the qualification, the means of education. We're going to talk about right now really the key factor that allows somebody who get into money, wealth building, that the factor that allow most people to succeed. All right. The sad part about it, because the time is also very important, because we see what happened here. We've had this pandemic for just about 5 months in the United States. We already, no matter how good the economy was doing, within 3 or 4 months, you got 40% of people out of job. A lot of people out of job. So if you gonna consider getting into a venture to build your wealth, to make some money, then it's gonna take certainly a lot more than reading books and education. Because once you start, there are gonna be challenges, there are gonna be factors that are gonna really stop you. So guys, the question is, of all the factors you've had and you've applied in your own private enterprise, what are some of the factors that really have contributed to your success and keep you in business?
Once you get started, okay, for me, I decided that I had to pay myself first. Yeah, I paid myself first, and the only way I could manage it is if I had a budget. And even today, I'm still operating on a budget. Okay? And really, it's not how much money you make, it's how much you keep. Okay? So how are you going to decide how much you keep? So I also decided that the tax system that we have here in America can be very cruel. So at an early age, I delved into tax preparation. I have never paid anybody to do my taxes from the age of 19. Okay? So the government is out there waiting to take your money. And I was determined to keep most of what I make. So that's why today I have a tax preparation practice. Okay? So I minimize my taxes. I pay taxes, but only what I have to pay. No more and no less. And I also bypass the middleman. Earlier on, I told you, Dr. Morency, that I hired a financial advisor, but that was only about 2 months ago.
Okay.
My whole life, I've done everything on my own. And I consider myself a little lucky. I've made some mistakes along the way. But as I said before, as I made a mistake, I learned from it, okay, and turn the page and make sure that I don't repeat the same mistake over again, okay? And you have to choose the right investments, okay? Real estate is a good investment. Mutual funds, which is the easiest investment for anybody to start. If you say that you don't know about stocks, okay. But mutual fund is a combination of a number of stocks in one basket, and you buy that a share out of that basket. That's your mutual fund. So there's no excuse for anyone not to start.
Okay. So, Andy, what about you?
Well, I was gonna say, like, from the small business, the entrepreneurial perspective, in this current time of COVID, what we're doing is really you stay the course, in a sense that things are really, obviously there's a lot of uncertainty out there. I mean, from that, I would not really advise anybody at this time to say, okay, just go ahead and jump in and start a venture. Obviously, with everything being the way it is right now. So there's a lot of things that are up in the air, but our strategy, what I would tell someone, is really just stay the course with what you were doing. Meaning, if you were, hopefully you still have a job and you're working, just, look at right now. I think the best thing is really to look at investment opportunities. If you can afford, diverting some of your income, to that. I mean, the stock market, for a while was really low, and, the stock started going back up. Who knows what's going to happen? But, it's probably best to really just look at a long-term goal. you know, in a lot of ways, people here, I think, are really concerned about like if they have debt or that they want to be debt free. You know, so they're thinking, okay, I just got to work hard, take 2 jobs or 3 jobs, you know, to pay the debt. But it's actually it's a little bit counterintuitive. It's like you really can't be so focused on just eliminating the debt, but not building. On the other hand, you're not building the wealth. It's more important almost to do the wealth part, you know, to focus on that. And then the debt, you know how much you need to pay. Like you were saying, you know, you have a budget. So that budget needs to be balanced between, okay, you know, what are your long-term goals, you know, which is to reduce the debt, but also, you know, to increase your investment and your mutual, your portfolios and that type of stuff. And again, this is something that anybody can do. So maybe people may think now's not the time, but there are some good, you know, opportunities out there.
And if I may, Andy mentioned that the debt, us in this community, okay, by the Black community, we spent the majority of our time worrying about reducing or eliminating debt, and we forget about building wealth. This is not what the majority, by majority, I mean the Caucasian, this is not what they do. Okay? They teach their kids from early on how to build wealth, and they manage the debt. Whereas we do 2 or 3 jobs so we could get rid of the debt. No, balance it. Balance it.
All right. So in terms of some of the other factors that I've asked you about, and then for me, I remember I learned my first lesson about credit score from my wife. And I was fortunate, really. You know, I have my wife actually has a degree in finances. So when we get married and we were talking about it, and she said, okay, you pay those bills and you do this, and we all keep our own book. So at the end of the month, we compare score. And then she said, okay, have you balanced your checkbook? I said, what is that? So, you know, to me, you just make money and you spend money, okay? And then I learned from her, and then with reference to other things, you know, the value of a credit score. So that's one. My personal experience about being a doctor, what makes me successful being a doctor, it's what you call customer service. Even in the practice of medicine, when you respect customer service, okay, then you really make the patient not only comfortable, but relate to the patient and just show interest for the benefit of the patient. That really helps. So from your point of view, guys, tell me about how important are credit score and, say, customer service that would lead to success in building your wealth?
Customer service is everything. If you are in business, you do not take care of your customers, I can guarantee you're going to fail. Because without those customers, you know, you have no chance. Now, you talk about credit score. Credit score,
how important is that, really?
The society that we live in is a credit society. We live and die by credit score. What impact does it have on your day-to-day life? Let's say, for instance, you have a bad credit score. You cannot even go to Home Depot or Lowe's or any local merchant, get a $500 credit card because your score is low. But when you have a high credit score, anything above 700, you can, you know, determine how much money you want to borrow from a borrower. It is because I use it a lot. When your credit score is high, you can even negotiate the rate that you pay on a credit card because you have negotiating power. Okay, and that is something that we don't spend enough time talking about.
I have to say that. Let me go back on service. I mean, the credit part, I'll leave that to you, since you know you're the accountant. You know this stuff inside and out. The service from an entrepreneurial perspective, and not only that. And when I mean entrepreneur, I mean that term now can also apply to not just me, you know, a small business owner, but also an Uber driver or someone who uses DoorDash or something. You know, it's basically it. We live in a gig economy, and service is everything. In our case, you know, it made the difference from when we started, like out of nowhere. Um, you know, I think from a background, from a cultural perspective, you know, coming from Haiti, you really feel that when you go out there, basically this is yourself. You're putting yourself out there. When you're in the service industry, the customer, no matter what you're providing to the customer, they're really buying you. That's who they're buying. You're the product. Okay. If they're happy with what you're doing, the service that you give, then price, you know, may not even be the most important factor. And as a matter of fact, in our line of business, you know, I tell people when you run your own business, every customer is your boss. But on the reverse end, you can determine who your boss is. And in my career as a business owner, I've actually quote unquote fired some customers because that is important that you know you understand what your value, what they call value proposition is. You know, what is it that you bring to the table, and is the customer ready to understand that? So service now allowed us to come from a position where we were no name, and we were just we were just trying to get work from just anybody, to now where we have customers that are very loyal to us, been with us for years, and we even get some time to pick and choose which contract we want, you know, to participate in. So like I said, it's not at our scale, which is still small, but even if you're someone like you're going on business for yourself, or you're providing any kind of product or service, the quality of the service really determines whether you can, you know, increase your rate, whether you have a better profit margin, or whatever it is. This is not, I mean, I know it's cliche, but it is really everything.
Another question that usually come up, and I've listened to many experts, because as you said, Google is there. You cannot get access to all those information. Is how much really do you invest in your own health to maintain your physical health, to maintain your mental health, particularly to make you stronger, to take care of your mind? Because ultimately, inevitably, once you go into any venture, you're gonna run into obstacles, you're gonna run into roadblocks. And how much do you guys really take care of yourself in preparation for, you know, to go out there and face the world and face the public? I mean,
I'll start with that. I'll say first thing, I have two maxims that I follow in you know in my day to day. First thing being, again, that we're in the service business, I never ask my teammates, and they're my employees, but I don't even like that word employees, because I really consider my whole company, everybody who works for me or is really part of my team. I don't ask anyone to do anything that I wouldn't do. Okay, except for heights, because I really hate heights. So when my guys have to get up there, I tell them, look, I'm not with you on that. I'm not going to get up that scissor lift and then, you know, to a 30-foot ceiling. So I think besides that, that's the one thing, you know, so never ask them to do something that you wouldn't do. And the second part is really that there needs to be respect and the relationship with, you know, the people that are working with you, and respect with your customers. So a lot of time I've had to make some tough decisions, you know, walk away from contracts, you know, where an opportunity that presents itself and the money is there, but I know it's just not the right fit, you know, and I'm okay with walking away from that because I want to be able to sleep at night. So there's a code of ethic that you have to have your own code of ethic, and people who are around you need to adhere to that same code of ethic. And that way you're able to balance your life. Otherwise, it can really get very stressful. I mean, you know, it's not an easy thing, you know, to be able to manage, especially if you have, you know, people that are on payroll and that type of stuff. But that's more of the business side of it. I'll let you can take care of the investor side.
Yeah, for me, how do I maintain my health and to deal with people? I I try to surround myself with positive people, people with high standards. Okay, there's a saying, I don't know if it's appropriate for me to say, but I'll say it anyway. When you lay down with dogs, you get up with fleas. And when you soar with eagles, it seems like you're always up there. You know, and I just, it's not that it's not being conceited or anything, but there are some people who could really bring you down. And even if the sun comes up, they'll find a way to complain about it. I'm a positive guy. I think positive. So if I'm around someone who's thinking negative, I just find a way to get away from it as quickly as possible. So that's how I maintain my health. You know, just maintain a positive mindset at all times.
And one thing that's also important is, you know, what is the quality of life at home? You need to, if you have that significant other, you know, that spouse or companion or whatever life partner, you want to make sure that you are on the same page, because you can't be fighting a battle out there and then you come back home and you're fighting a battle at home. So there needs to be, again, some harmony as to, okay, what are we doing? Where are we going with this? And, you know, just to make sure that you're able to maintain sanity even when the days are. So, you know, that's another aspect of it that I think we did not talk about, but that is extremely important.
Now, we didn't mention, you're right, we didn't mention that, but I'd say that's critical.
Yeah.
If your significant other is heading south and you're heading north, I can guarantee you're not going to get to wherever you're trying to get to. But when both of you are heading in the same direction, it's easier to deal with the challenges and the pitfalls, because you pick each other up. Okay, so that's a critical point.
Yeah.
Well, one of the factors that I wanted to bring out as well is, and I have applied that in my life, in my professional life, is having a discipline. A discipline meaning that you set out a plan or a schedule, and by all costs, you try to maintain it. If something happens, you can always recalibrate, but you really stay in that straight line. You never deviate. So I've seen discipline really paid off, not only, as you mentioned, Andy, in terms of really being a leader, for instance. I did spend some time as a middle manager when I was running Cigna Healthcare. I was a chief of staff at Cigna Healthcare. You know, the respect of the folks and the fact that you always open to receive suggestions for people who work for you, and then you take them back. And having certain ethic and discipline to do the right thing always, regardless what. And that's basically what I was referring. And I imagine that's really very important for anybody who run a business or who out there really dealing with people in order to build, to make money and build the what.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have any comment on that.
That you were in middle management. I think one of the most, like, the problems that I see happening, again, that have happened throughout, again, all the years that I've seen people, you know, starting a venture, starting, you know, an investment, or whether it's real estate investment and everything, is that, and starting a business, is that there's that fallacy of believing that you know your product or you know your service better than anyone, and nobody can do it better than you. So guess what? You're going to do everything. You know what I mean? It's like nobody can do it better than you. So it's really, I have one of my favorite book. I think, you know, I had mentioned it to you guys, where it was get your business to work for you. You know, how to, you know, make more while working less. A lot of small business owners and a lot of people also, you know, trying to build wealth, really jump in and you know, they go in where, you know, they start doing something, they start doing a business, and things start working. They get a couple of customers. You know, at the beginning, they only work maybe, you know, part-time, you know, 20, 30 hours, something. Next thing you know, they're getting more customers. Things start getting good. More people are coming into the front door. And then now they're working 60, 70 hours a week. And then what happens? You get exhausted. You get tired. You know, and that's really not a situation that you want to be in. You have to understand that at some point you need to be able to delegate, and you need to surround yourself with the right people. And that is a key thing. Again, that's, I think, one of the key success. I mean, for me, I tell my customers I would be nothing without the people that work with me. You know, they know what they're doing. They're well trained, and it definitely shows. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to sit here and be talking to you, you know, about building wealth. I'd probably be out there myself and, you know, and doing some installation in some classrooms out of nowhere.
No, I agree.
So, Guy, so you have some young persons out there, especially in this particular time, and they want to start getting into some investment. What would you recommend? There's plenty of ways to go, I imagine.
Okay, first of all, the first thing I would say is identify some disposable income from whatever money you're making. As I mentioned to you earlier in private conversation, I said you don't need a whole lot to start. All you need is $50 that you can commit automatically from a checking account. And you can open up a brokerage account and you get started. And from there, and you just make sure you put $50 a month to get started. As more money becomes available to you, then you increase that 50 from 50 to 100. Instead of twice a month, make it 4 times a month. Or it could be $50 a week. It could be $50 every 2 weeks, or it could be $100. It doesn't matter. You just have to identify a certain amount of money that you can afford to invest. And the only way you're going to do that is if you know how much money comes in and how much is going out to a budget.
Yeah,
okay?
Right.
And also, you have to live within your means. Okay, it's not everything out there that you see that you can't have.
Yeah. I was going to add that when you said, you know, opening an account with brokerage, I mean, most of these brokerage firms, whether it's Fidelity, Vanguard, you know, I think especially Fidelity, you can open these for free. They're not going to charge you a dime. If you need to deposit, you know, transfer some money over, you can link it to your bank. You know, they even have robo investors. Some of them have some sort of, they really make it easy because they want you to bring in your money so that you can invest into it. You know, Guy told me something I never forgot. You know, if you remember last year when you told me that, you know, the one thing is that it's good. You're talking about, you know, what makes you sleep well at night is, for example, knowing that while you're sleeping, you're making money because, you know, your mutual funds, your stocks, you know, are actually appreciating in their value. You know, at the depth of what we can now call the depth of the stock market crash, you know, recently, you know, Ford stock, for example, was trading in the $4. I think American Airline was like $7 or something. So with that $50, you can buy, you know, a few shares of this and that just to try, you know, just to say, hey, I've at least made that first step. Again, you know, we're not telling anybody just go ahead and jump in, you know, Monday and invest, you know, $10,000 on one stock. You know, that's not what we're saying. But at least once you get started and you get again in that mindset, then it becomes second nature.
Isn't that the definition of being rich? You have your money finally working for you, and you pay less taxes.
Right.
So that's the.
I wouldn't say that's rich. I would say that's playing the system.
Yeah.
To get to be rich.
And if I may point out, okay, how do people choose a stock? Okay, we talk about stock and mutual fund. How do you choose a stock? Okay, if you watch CNBC, they have all these terminology that they use, and that can be confusing to a lot of people.
Yeah,
I choose a stock just by, let's say we take Walmart. Every time I go to Walmart, the parking lot is always full. Every time I go to Home Depot, the parking lot is always full. Okay, so I try to choose a stock that their product is widely used by everyone. Walmart is not going to go out of business. Home Depot is not going to go out of business. Okay, so Andy was talking about transportation, talking about JetBlue and American
Airlines.
Right now, we're going through a very tough time with COVID-19. The airline stocks dropped tremendously.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is a good thing to take a serious look at, because while we go into this pandemic, everything is low, but it's not going to stay this way. Okay? COVID is going to be with us for a while, but it's not going to be forever. So we have to learn to live with it. People will start traveling again. If American Airlines is trading at $9,
yeah,
and they normally trade around $31. So if you put $1,000 in American Airlines, you say you get 100 shares, that costs you $1,000, and it trades in a couple years down the road at $36. Guess what? Your $1,000 is now $4,000. Okay, this is the time for us to get into the market. And a lot of times they say, well, the economy. Only about 48% of the population, maybe a little bit less, invest in the stock market. The majority of Americans don't even talk about the economy. It doesn't even affect them. Because if you're making $15 an hour today, that's all you're making. As a dimension, you're not making money while you're sleeping.
Yeah. Absolutely. What about, is real estate is still a good investment still?
Especially yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is, because, for instance, when you have a rental property, for instance, I'm not talking about commercial real estate for those big people. I'm talking about normal folks like you and I. Okay, if you have a rental property, the government will allow you to write off, okay, $25,000 of loss on that property. That is by depreciating it, all the taxes and insurance, the repairs, the maintenance, the all the expenses that comes with managing that rental property. It is a good investment. That's one of the last, good options we have in the tax system.
Yeah, if I can say something about that, when you talk about real estate, the different industries, I will tell people, because a lot of time I can't count how many times I've had someone tell me, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go get my real estate license. I'm gonna start selling homes and everything. I mean, it's all good, but people need to realize that for one thing, I say is that you need to try to really stick with something that when you're trying to venture out there, or if you don't know about it, make sure you try to talk to someone who's done it. It's like, people really feel that, they late at night on their computer, even if they're talking to my cousin Google, which is your cousin too, that's how we're both related, right? So they're doing this stuff and they're thinking, again, that they have all the answers, but there's nothing like the real thing, and make sure that, you talk, if you're thinking about doing real estate, or if you're thinking about, doing, flipping homes, and the real estate market is, I don't think it's even wavered. I mean, houses selling like hotcakes out there last time I checked. So, I mean, for now. So it's really something that you need to make sure, don't try to go out there on your own and you just know enough to be dangerous, because you might lose. So just be a little bit of humility there.
Well, ultimately, what you said from the start of the show is very important. You have to get the information. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be compatible. It has to be compatible with your value. Because if you don't know anything about it, you're not going to succeed. There's no question about it. So the information is very important. So listen, guys, I think time is passing here. So essentially, what kind of advice would you, to summarize, you give to somebody who really come and ask you about, hey, listen, I wanna go ahead and start right now. What would you say to them?
Well, for me, I would say, look at your budget and identify some money. Okay, I keep repeating it. Look at how much money you make. Again, believe it or not, there's money in there that you can invest. Okay, if you have to be able to find at least $50. Okay, once you find that, minimum $50, open up that brokerage account. Okay, you could go with Fidelity, Vanguard, T. Rowe Price, American Century. There are thousands of companies out there. Open up that brokerage account by going online, and every one of these sites, they have a customer service number that you can call. And you can start out by saying, well, I'm trying to start an investment. I don't know much about it. How do I open up an account? And they will walk you through.
Okay. Okay. What about Andy? Any last point?
What he said. No, seriously. I mean, yeah, that's. I mean, there's no different ways about it at this time right now. This pandemic is really just face the music. Your budget, how much do you have that you can start brokerage account, but also find people that are like-minded. One thing early and again, as a small business, one thing that I didn't like to do at the beginning was really to put myself out there. I think, again, it's a little bit of the, culture in the background, coming from Haiti, you really don't like to, quote unquote, get in people's faces. But after a while, I really got to appreciate going to conventions, talking to other business owners, because I got to really see people that were, 20 years at that time, 20 years older than me, in where I am right now. And I said, well, if I'm sitting right next to this guy and he's, there, then I can get there too.
Well, that's networking.
Exactly. Networking. Talk to people that are like-minded, because there's synergy and there's energy in that. So, you want to talk to people that are like-minded, but also that are further ahead of you, so that you can, skip some mistakes.
For my part, everything you guys said really are right on target. If somebody wants to do something, okay, they really need to really want it bad. You have to have that motivation, that fire underneath, because obviously it's going to be a long-term thing. You're going to definitely encounter so many obstacles. If you really don't like it, don't want to have it, you don't have that fire, it's gonna be tough. So have the vision, because for me, I see already in the future what I want. I mean, it's in my head every day. It's motivates me. So it facilitates that discipline, that sacrifice that you have to make to be single-mindedly going toward that goals. Then information. You really got to know, because if you don't know, you're not gonna go anywhere, because so many smart people out there, competition out there. So, and don't be afraid to be different. Yes. And know that you're gonna fail.
Yeah.
And if it's not failure, it's an opportunity. It's not everything is an opportunity to really improve and get better. So to have that fire underneath, then you get the money and you find the ways to get this thing. Listen, guys, I think we have basically 1 minute left. So I'm going to summarize everything you say. It's just like, there are opportunities out there, even though in this time, people who are creative, who have passion, but you got to get the information. You got to get that long-term vision. You got to be patient. You got to have discipline. And save, don't spend money unnecessarily. I'm repeating what you said. So anyway, we're going to stop down there, and then hopefully people can have some questions and they can submit on Facebook. Listen, guys, I really, really appreciate your expertise, your insight in this very fascinating subject. And I look forward at some point we can have a part 2, okay? So, Andy, Lieutenant Colonel Medor, thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
All right.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you appreciate this show and all the information. You can always submit your question on Facebook, and we'll try somehow to get back to you. As I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to have some more show for you, okay? One of the show I'm looking into is this gentleman is going to come and talk about PPP and some of the stimulus package the government have been trying to get to people, but somehow either the software and something is preventing people from getting that money. So he has all the information. So look forward to that. And also, we planning on updating on COVID and the effect and the school that's going to open. So there's a lot of things to look forward to. So we appreciate your staying with us and your support. Thank you very much. Have a great week.